Well, been a while. Here I am. Still alive. I brought some stuff out here because it's winter now. I mean, it's officially winter, right? So we'll talk about some winter stuff, which I know some people are very interested in. Not wearing a hat because I got it over there with other hats. So I just wanted to say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, because we just went through that. And Happy New Year, right? So it's another year down. Made it this far. So don't know how far I'm gonna make it. But I'm gonna keep going until I don't go. But anyway, I'm probably gonna get the pulk out today. I want to walk around because there's snow on the ground. I want to check out the tracks and stuff. And I will probably do a fire video or two. I'm looking at doing that either today or in the next day or two. But the thing about winter here in New England is it's very harsh on batteries. So what I have done in previous videos in the years past is I put wrapped some like an old sock or something around the video camera. But I decided, I went ahead and I made this koozie, right? I made this to go around the camera, so the camera will slide up in there, and the lens is there, and I'll be able to turn it on and off on the side, and partially see the view screen on the back, but not the whole thing, because I just want it as protected as possible. I had this camera with me 2 or 3 years ago. It was minus 35 Fahrenheit out there, and the battery sure didn't last long, of course, even with the sock. So I thought, well, it's not that cold now, but if it does get cold again like that, or colder even, could get colder, I've got this from now on. I can see how this works. I may go ahead and make some kind of a wool jacket to go over this even. I don't know. But those are the kinds of extremes you go to in New England in winter if you're videotaping outside. So, videotaping. We don't use tape anymore. So you may not even know what that is. Well, so basically some of this is going to be about clothing. Some of it's going to be about tips to utilize in the winter. And so the next thing I'm going to go over here is driving in winter conditions in a snowstorm. Okay, the other day I was driving home in a blizzard. Now, what's the difference between a blizzard and regular old snowstorm? Well, a snowstorm is both a blizzard and just a snowstorm. Okay, the snowstorm, it can come down at any rate that it wants, and it can go as long as it wants. But a snowstorm generally goes for a good long time. And a blizzard is a period of time when it's snowing so hard and fast that you could you can uncover something and then turn around for a second, then turn back around, it's all covered again. So it's that fast. It's it's whiteout conditions to where you can't even hardly see in front of you at all, if at all. Uh, there are places where they have ropes between buildings, and things like that, so that they can't see. They're just following the rope so they don't get lost to get from building to building. That kind of a condition. Now, I was driving in a blizzard condition a few nights ago. We got a foot of snow, and since then we've actually got more snow. Not that much snow, but we got some more snow. Um, but the driving conditions were horrible. I passed a guy who was stopped on the side of what should have been the road. He might have been partially on the edge of a ditch or something, but he was at the edge, and he had his blinking yellow lights on. So I was driving about 10 to 15 miles per hour at the most. I saw his blinking lights. That is something for you to also keep in mind when there's hazardous driving conditions. Always turn on those blinking lights, whether it's really bad rain or really bad snow, fog, anything. Those yellow lights cut through and helps other people to see you. Okay? You can have your regular lights on all you want, but white lights and red lights are not going to give that visual indicator that people need to see you. Okay, you got to use those yellow blinking lights, and those are front and rear. Okay, now as you'll see, I'm holding a set of glasses here. These are yellow tinted glasses. Okay, put these on over my regular glasses, right? And what is this for? I keep these in my truck during the winter. And the thing is my fog lights on my truck that were stock with the truck are clear. They're clear fog lights. That's really no good in a blizzard, because what happens is white light reflects off of the snow. Okay, so you don't get that penetration like yellow. Remember the yellow blinking hazard lights? So what we do, if we don't have yellow lights, yellow fog lights, we can put yellow glasses on. This changes. It changes what happens. This helps us to see through the blizzard with white lights. I know that sounds weird, but it does, work. And if you have these and you have yellow fog lights, you're even better off. I gotta get some yellow fog lights on my truck. That's just something I gotta do. I got some in mind. They go on the bumper. On top of the bumper, not in the bumper. But I got some in mind. I'm probably gonna put 3 in the center, and then put them at 2 angles and one facing forward. But anyway, yellow tinted glasses. I think these are like blue blockers or something. I don't remember what these are. These are some as seen on TV type baloney. But I've found that wearing these while I was snow blowing my big driveway. It's a long driveway, so when I used to shovel it, I was out there for 6 hours shoveling my driveway. It's a good sized driveway. So all the way to the gates at the street. So the snowblower is a big Aaron's snowblower, and it's got a light on it. Now it's a white light. I don't know why, but it is. But anyway, I put these on. I found that while I was snowblowing a number of years ago, man, that just totally changed things. So definitely get yourself some yellow glasses. Whether you want to try to find these or not, I think these were like as seen on TV at a big box store or something. I picked them up. Might try some shooting glasses. Probably do the same thing. But the thing about these is these fit over my regular glasses, so that's why I went with those. So, yeah, there's the koozie for the camera, and then the glasses, and then another thing is I've brought these up in the past. I've got a few of these. I got 2 large ones and 2 smaller ones. The hawk and Japanese peacock. Okay, these heaters, right? So these use Coleman fuel, white gas. So you put that in there, and then you run a lighter along the element, and you keep heating it up and heating it up, and finally you get, you know, you get the effect, right? So it causes an effect which there's no flame, but between it doesn't operate on the fuel. So don't go pouring the fuel on the element, because you'll just mess up the element. The fuel goes in the bottom on each one of these, and it's the fumes of the fuel that causes the reaction with the element material. Okay, that's what causes it. You hit that with a lighter, and you know, get that reaction going, and then this gets really hot. You wouldn't be able to hold it like this. It gets several hundred degrees. So I made a wool bag here a few years ago when I was using one of my big ones quite a bit, and this is it. So this wool bag here, I just drop it in there, right? Just kind of push it down in there, and then I got a nice brass safety pin, and I can just safety pin it shut. I like brass because it looks, you know, it looks antique-y, right? And then I got this nice heavy thread. This comes from a French boot company or something. Anyway, it's a nice cord. It's like a boot cord. So that's sewn into both seams on that side and that side. The cord goes with the seam around my neck, and then back and sewn back in the seam when I made it. And of course, it's just folded over wool. You know. Yeah. I need to make a second one of these because I got 2 of the big ones, and I got 2 of the small ones. These small ones are from Japan, these Hawkins, right? So what do I mean by that anyway, right? What do you mean by Hawkin? Well, it's a Japanese company. This one I got paracord on, and a little bit of dust there, my old dusty house. My house is 206 years old now. So anyway, peacock. Now they're in Japan, but they have a factory. They also have a factory in Korea. So it's the same company, Peacock, Hawkin. You know, so yeah. So these are pretty darn fuel efficient right here. They really are. I've gotten quite a number of hours. You'd think that those big ones would be better on fuel, but they're not. They just heat a larger area, right? So this heats a smaller area, that heats a larger area. So you have to have more fuel to heat that larger area. But the nice thing about those Johnny Giants is that is that it is a large, hot thing. You know, it's like taking a hot stone or a hot brick and stick it in your pocket. You know, except for it's made for the purpose, and you don't have to heat it in a fire. Right, let me get this back in here. Not big on Velcro on stuff, especially around my wool, but if I close it up, you know, it won't get caught on nothing. If you smother these things too much, they will go out because they need oxygen, right? So just remember that when you're using one of these. Don't put it right on your skin, but don't put it, you know, don't bury it deep underneath all your layers right next to your skin. But put it somewhere where it can breathe, like this wool, you know. Every now and then you can do like this and it'll get oxygen flowing through into the garment, and that will keep this thing activated. You know, I've had this go out on me before when I got real sweated up working on a roof here a few years ago, and it was cold outside. You know, I was actually, I think I was sweeping snow off the roof or something. I don't know, one of the buildings. And I was out there for hours, so I had a few of these things with me. I got two of the smaller ones here, and I got two of the big ones. They work good. They work for hours. 12 to 24 hours you're looking at, you know, depending on how much fuel. Yeah. This video, I think I'm going to go ahead and maybe have this video do the clothing stuff in another video. I'm going to go on real quick to this. Now, if you are a soldier, Special Forces soldier, or a similar soldier, you know, I don't even have to tell you, but I'm going to say this anyway for the benefit of other people. You know that you should always carry dry tinder with you into wherever you're going, just in case. Alright, now this is super light. Alright, there's enough here to get 2 or 3 fires going, and if you're conservative, you might be able to get 10 or 20. But, you know, these shavings right here, okay, these are cedar shavings that I've done over the years, and anyway, so these are cedar shavings and bits of cedar wood in there, and then this one is birch paper bark, right? This one's birch paper bark pulled off of the birch paper bark tree. And then I also have some cedar in here as well, because I dumped some in, you know, trying to give a little, fill up these bags just a little bit. I don't want them completely full because I don't want them hard. I want them with air in between. So what these are, you could do with these is you could put these in your pockets. Okay, let's say for instance on a SAS smock, right? You got internal pockets, you got external pockets. Find where you think you need the best insulation. Put a bag of lightweight tinder in there as extra insulation, right? Now, in the case of not a smock, but an anorak, like a wool anorak, my Miklegard anorak has like a pocket on the back. I don't know why they put that there unless they thought, hey, this will appeal to Americans because, the old uh, Mackinaw wool coats, like my Woolrich over there and like Filson's, okay, they've got the map pocket on the back. That's a map pocket. It's not a poacher's pocket. It's not to stuff dead animals in. It's to put maps in. Okay, so that's a common myth that's a poacher's pocket on the Mackinaw wool coat to put dead animals in there like rabbits and squirrels. No, it's not for that. Not enough room for stuffing dead animals in there anyway. You don't want that blood and stuff, blood and guts inside your coat. It makes it stink, right? Blood stinks because it rots. Now, but you could put this in there. You could put this in there. And in my Mackinaw wool coat, okay, I don't know what it's like with a Filson's because I don't own a Filson's. But my slash pockets that come in from the sides, they are completely open to the inside between the inner and outer part of the coat. Up here and down here and underneath the arms, they're completely, those are two huge compartments. And on the back, there's a slash on each side that's buttoned shut, okay, with the actual button, not the snap or popper, but the button, okay, and then that's on mine. I think Filson has poppers or snaps or whatever you want to call them. I think that's what they got. But my Woolrich is the whole back is between the, it's open between the lining and the Mackinaw wool. It'd be nice if that was Mackinaw wool lining, but at some point I may put Mackinaw wool lining in there. Not take the original out, just put the Mackinaw wool in over top, sew it in. It'll make it heavier duty and it will give me an extra spot to put some stuff, right? That I can just access it from the inside and then get it later when I want it. So, yeah, but that's what I'm talking about with that tinder. So that way you always have dry tinder. This is something any Special Forces type soldier is going to know, that you always carry something with you, to get a fire going, right? Especially in winter environments. If you are in the boreal forest or anywhere up north here in New England, especially, you want to have something with you, and another thing about tinder is I came up with a saying years ago, and I thought, well, if I ever write a book, that quote is going in there, and I made it. All right, it says, here's the quote. Makes it easy to remember for you, okay? When the snow blows and the wind bites, gather your tinder at shoulder height. Right? It could be waist height or it could be shoulder height, whichever you prefer, depending on your situation. But you don't want to gather tinder off the ground to get a fire going, okay, in the winter. When the snow blows and the wind bites, gather your tinder at shoulder height. So you want to be getting that tinder off the ground, like that birch bark, things like that. If you have the means to carry some fat wood with you without it being just a lot of weight, okay, because it is wood, paper bark, is super light. You don't have to worry too much about that. But a small bundle of fatwood sticks will keep you going for a long time in a bad situation. right? If you need to. And another thing too is don't use up all of your resources before you get more resources. So you need to gather some more resources if you need, right? Just don't use up all of your starter kit. You know, just use whatever you need to get a fire going. Get that fire going, and then build it from stuff around you. Don't keep using your precious stash, right? Don't keep using that. Just use a little bit just to get you going, right? Get it started. That doesn't mean skimp so much that you can't get a fire started, because sometimes you need a little bit more, you know. All right. I'm going to stop this one here, and then I'm going to open up a new video, and the next one we'll talk more about clothing a bit. So, I'll see you there.